Good afternoon, YouTube. Welcome to Sorta Smarter. It's my first episode. I figured today I would show you how to replace the cold cathode fluorescent tube in a Tektronix oscilloscope. I picked this bad boy up, and it's a TDS1012B. And if I turn it on here, maybe you'll see here, give it a second, it does power up, and it does work. Very nice oscilloscopes. A little dirty, got it for pretty cheap. Got on Craigslist. I don't know if you can see that. If I get the reflection off of there. Let's see if we can get this so that you guys can see that. There you can see the screen. So yeah, you can see the screen, but the backlight is completely dead on it. And being a slightly older unit, Tektronix has decided to no longer offer replacement parts for this. So as a consequence, people don't fix them. I've picked up a couple of these units before and fixed them, but I figured I would show how simple it can be once you get into the unit. Take out a few screws here. These are Torx screws. It's a T15. One trick that I did find out, learned the hard way after breaking a power switch on one of them is remove this little guy from here. It's on its face. Back slides off quite easily, and exposes the tubes. So if you see here, this is your power supply here, and this is the high voltage transformer here, and this is the connection here for the cold cathode tube. For the LCD screen. These are still available. I get mine from China. They're readily available. I've had no issues with getting any of them. They come in several different colors. I tend to get the 5000K as far as the temperature goes for them. So we'll just continue to pull these apart as my cat wants to give his 2 cents worth here. So unplug the board here, and there is, I believe, 5 screws for this one. There is 3 short ones for the main part of the board here, and 2 long ones for the main part of the power plug right here. Now I do not know if the main capacitor holds a charge in this or not. I always go into the assumption that all the capacitors are fully charged. It's easier that way than trying to discharge it, so unplug the cold cathode and just set this aside safely apart there. This next step here is fairly simple. Some of these may be strapped here on the side, some may not be. We will unplug it from here and unplug it from here, and the only reason we're going to unplug it from here is to get to the screw that's on the front of this here. We need to take this off. This is the connection to the LCD screen in the front. We'll just pull off the Kapton tape that's on here. I've reused this Kapton tape. I think it just secures this to here to keep it from dangling around. I don't know if you want to be particular about it and replace it. I guess that's a personal preference. Pull that connection there. And then you want to reach into here and pull this little guy out there. If you look down inside here, there are two small Torx screws that are inside there. So you got to pull those screws out of there. And these screws have a different thread pitch than the other ones, so keep those separate. We don't want to get those in the wrong place at the wrong time. They're longer, bigger, and different threads. Pull these four corner ones as well. Lift this up in the front before you start separating this. You want to pull these knobs off. They come off quite easily. There's not a certain order for them. And this just lifts. Straight up off of there. There's a membrane on here. If it comes off, it's not a big deal. Just set it aside with the rest of your parts. Now, take these four screws here and remove those. I suppose a cup would have been easier. I don't always get what I want. Now, very carefully slide this from between the circuit board and gently feed this cord through. And unplug it. Now you can put that circuit board aside. This is the important part that you need. So this is a 5.7 inch LCD screen. When you go to order these, they want to know, these appear to be very universal when you order these. I've done some of them. I've had to change the pin out on these plugs. They don't matter which direction the plug is on here. I've had to also clip them and resolder new wire connections on the ends of these. Just make sure you insulate them. It is a high voltage connection. You don't want it grounding out or arcing over on anything, especially inside an oscilloscope. I'm sure that would probably cause havoc. So take these ears, peel these open just a little bit, just to clear the edge of this board. And that one wasn't even bent over. And then you need a very small Phillips. are 4 very small Phillips screws in the corner of this screen. And a lot of times you'll see when we get this open, this is very, just like a miniature, oops, I forgot some more of these clips. Open here. This is the back of your LCD screen. Here's your tube here. What I like to do is take a small flathead screwdriver and just right along this edge here pull open this little plastic tube. This way I'm not pulling the screen out, I'm just popping this corner open. A lot of times the plastic is very brittle and it pops, or it's already open on here. And then lift out of the corners and out of this track corner here. This wire up out of the trace here, and there's the old tube. This is glass, be careful, it will break. It's just a miniature fluorescent tube, just like the fluorescent lights in your house. You see the black ring here in the corner. This is probably why it died. There's another black ring on this corner here. I've gotten some of them that have burned out. If I get it to focus, you can see this one here has charred itself really badly. You get these from China. This is one that I ordered. They only sell them in batches of 10. Buy a whole case of these things. Here's a whole nother set. So it's just a matter of lifting that back up and paying attention that one wire is longer than the other, so we don't want to put it in backwards or you're going to run out of wire very quickly. Get this tucked back into here. And it's going to cooperate. Not. So I'm going to pull the whole panel out just to feed this one in. This is the whole light panel here. If you pull the whole thing out, you just want to be careful. There's diffusers on and light spreaders that are on the front of this. If you've ever taken apart an LCD TV or whatnot, there can be several lenses on the front of this. This one here seems to be glued down. You can see the light lenses that are on here, and they're in a very specific order sometimes. This one seems to only have one sheet, and there's a glass, this is the glass plate. Just want to make sure. Sometimes I've taken these off and there's 2 or 3 different lenses on there, and you just want to make sure that they go back in exactly the same order that they came out. Set that back down in there. Feed this back into this little track here. Bulb's a little bit longer than the other one, I think. It's a little tight in the corner here. But, you know, Chinese manufacturing, well, sorry about the noise. Air conditioner's a little hot today. They say it's going to get 90 here. But so got to get this wire down into this little track here. Careful not to puncture the wire. Just feed it down into that little track right there. There. Get that one into there, just like that. Get it starting that little guide right there. Make sure this is flush across its corners. that's flush with this plastic edge right across here and across here before you put this back on. This only goes on one way. If you don't have it on the right way, the screws won't line up. So, like I said, it only goes on one way. Try to be smart about it. The screws. You don't want to tighten these screws down until you have all 4 of them in. Just a simple practice. Otherwise, you get one hole that's not quite lined up, and the plate won't move. That one in there. Get that one in there. That one in there. That one there. There we go. Get these little ears bent back here for the retaining. I think these middle ones were never actually squeezed on from the factory. I don't know why. They put them on there and they don't use them. Get that one there. That one there. That one there. I tried one time fixing this. I had another oscilloscope that I tried to fix with a row of those LED lights, and it worked pretty well, but I had to build a power supply for it. And, the power supply created so much noise that it picked it up through the trace in the oscilloscope and created feedback noise, which was very counterintuitive on my part. So I ended up, and that's what put me on the search for trying to find the CCFLs. Once I found the proper fluorescent tubes, I was much happier, to say the least. Because to put a driver inside this with a to drive the LEDs, I'd gone to a TV repair shop and he told me that this was the replacement that they do inside the newer TVs when the cold cathode tubes go out. But I don't think a TV is not as sensitive to the calibration as a oscilloscope is, and it was picking up the feedback on it. It was no good. I had to take it all back out. But, alright, so put the Kapton tape back down here. Keep the wiring restrained. Can't have the wiring loose in here, you know. Might get those pixies loose somewhere in there, cause havoc somewhere. But, put this down. May also be a good time if your screen appears to be dirty enough, or if this thing's been under a lot of abuse, to take a Q-tip with some isopropyl alcohol, wipe off the pads and clean off the backside of the screen, or the pads that make contact on here. These are good gold contacts on here. They're not going to corrode unless there's been some kind of chemical that's been spilled on it. But you could certainly, if someone spilled something on here, to clean the back of the contacts. Also a good idea at this time if you wanted to clean the screen on here. But as you can see, I got a lot of fingerprints on it, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. Right now we are just servicing, getting that backlight on. Make sure at this point, sorry about banging the camera, that we use the screws that have the coarse threads on them. And not too tight. You will strip the plastic out, especially on older units. The plastic gets brittle. They put a bromine inside the plastic to make it a flame retardant, and as it gets older and starts to turn yellow from age, it also becomes brittle. And if you strip that out, it just becomes less professional and just not as good anymore. So excuse me if my head gets in the shot here as I try to find that screw hole. There. Make sure that plugs in nice and all the way. That's clipped in. Get this one pushed in, clipped in all the way. Make sure the tape is there. Alright, so I knock screwdrivers over. Knobs all out of the way here. Let's grab the power supply again. Line it up on the screws. Remembering that I had two long screws that went through the power plug socket. Sure as I don't stick the long one through the power plug socket. Yep. Do as I say, not as I do. And one more screw here. Yeah, these are awesome scopes. I use one, the one that I fixed with the LED lights at with the built-in test port on the front for the calibration and 1 gig just a really nice scope for a 2-channel. You know, pick it up for with a dead backlight for pennies on the dollar. And make sure that ground is connected there. You always want to make sure it's got a good ground reference to ground. And, so now we will reinstall the back cover, making sure it's got a little longer lead than the original one on it, so make sure it's tucked in up and under out of the way. Slide that cover back on. Put the screw here. screw here. This screwed back on. That one. 2 screws under the handle. Oh, good grief. You'll have to excuse it if I look like I shake a little bit when I put the screw in. Alright. Get the power button knob on. I know. Void the warranty. I think the warranty is probably void on this bad boy by now. That one there. It's back. Let's get the rest of these knobs on. That one there. Nope. Yeah, 100 megahertz and 1 gig per second sweep is all I will ever need for any stupid. It's gonna be way smarter than I'm gonna be able to do. So, when your oscilloscope's smarter than you are, I think I don't need anything better. Alright, well, let us plug it in and see if we let out the magic smoke or not, huh? And, well, the screen lights up. Let's see if it goes through initialization or if we blew it up. Well, the auto brightness works. Let's see if it goes through its self-calibration here. And set time. I'm not going to set the timer day right now. Hey, what do you know? Sorry about the auto contrast there. Still getting used to this new camera. Guess it picks up on all that light and darkens the whole screen out on you. But as you see, the screen worked quite well. Auto ranging, run, stop. Yep. Brilliant. Another one fixed. So, alright. Well, YouTube, there's one for the books, and we'll see you next time.